In this video, we're going to learn how to add and subtract decimal numbers. If you don't know how to add regular multi-digit numbers, feel free to check out my video on how to add large whole numbers before you watch this. It's important because here I'll be focusing on how to deal with the decimal point. Adding decimals is basically the same as adding multi-digit whole numbers. When we added multi-digit whole numbers, it was very important to line up the ones places in one column, the tens places in one column, and so on. When adding decimals, this is not necessarily the case. Just line up the decimal points of your add-ins or numbers that you're adding, which also ensures that all the other numbers are lined up in their columns correctly. After that, add just as you add whole numbers, ignore the decimal point. And the second step we do is to put the decimal point in your answer in the same column as the decimal points of your add-ins. In other words, the decimal point drops straight down to the final answer. Let's try that with an easy example like 1.5 plus 2.5. Set up your addition that way so the decimal points are in the same column. After adding them together, ignoring the decimal points, we get 40. The decimal point drops straight down to the final answer, and we get 4.0, which is equal to 4. So the solution for 1.5 plus 2.5 is 4. You can also put the decimal point in your answer at the beginning before you start calculating. Let's do another example. 10.7 plus 8.23. We see that 8.23 has two decimal digits. But that doesn't change how we proceed. We just line up the decimal points, and all the numbers will then fit neatly into their columns. Don't make a common mistake and put the 7 and 3 in the same column like we would do it when there is no decimal point. Always make sure you remember what you're doing, either whole number addition or decimal number addition. After adding these numbers, ignoring the decimal points, we get 1893. The decimal point drops straight down to the final answer, and we get 18.93 as our solution. Let's try this example. 11.23 plus 0.0031. Don't get confused when the numbers look like this. You treat it like any other decimal number addition problem. What do I mean by that? When you have different looking numbers, like one that has a lot of zeros or a lot of digits in front or after the decimal point, shouldn't confuse you. Just remember, line up the decimal points in one column and make sure that the other numbers also align in the right column. You can also use supporting lines when you feel more comfortable with them. After adding, ignoring the decimal points, we get 112,331. The decimal point drops straight down to the final answer, which is 11.2331. The same works with subtraction, like in this example. 12.3456 minus 7.89. After subtracting, ignoring the decimal points, we get 44,556. The decimal point drops straight down to the final answer, which is 4.4556. What's the difference of these two numbers? Line up the decimal points. Remember, every number that doesn't have a decimal point can be written with a decimal point after the last digit and put a 0 after the decimal point. You don't have to write the decimal point with the 0, but make sure that you line up the 3 from 123 and the 7 from 7.34 in the same column. After subtracting, ignoring the decimal points, we get 11,566. The decimal point drops straight down to the final answer, which is 115.66. Let's drop the decimal point straight down first and then subtract. 9,15035. Remember that there are never commas to the right or left of a decimal, even if you have a very long decimal. Let's do a quick recap. Adding decimals is really simple. First, to add or subtract decimal numbers, align the decimal point, which will allow all the digits to be aligned according to their place value. Again, align the decimal point, which will allow all the digits to be aligned according to their place value. Second, add or subtract just as you would add or subtract whole numbers, ignoring the decimal point, beginning on the right and progressing to the left, and drop the decimal point straight down to the answer. By the way, feel free to check out my next video about how to multiply decimal numbers. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. This video is what I did for you. If you want to do something for me, hit the bell button, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching and happy learning, everyone.